long story short, you just want to make sure that you're on the same page and that what the love you're trying to give is actually received by the other person.
Beautiful. And it's also good, flip side of that, to know what's the love language that you want to accept from other people as well.
Right.
Right. So whether you're out there and you're dating, or you're in your beautiful, amazing marriage or relationship, to be able to say, hey queen, this is what I need, or hey king, this is what I need in order to feel loved. And they have those directions. All right, we're out. All right. Well, in case you all forgot my name, it's
Hmm.
Devon Truvel here. But something that I find interesting for me, right? This is something that I deal with maybe once a month, every 2, 3 months. But there's like these just lull of days that I have where I'm just like, I'm not feeling it. Right. And I'll tell the queen, like, hey, my frequencies are off, my energies are off. I was telling Jair a little bit, like, I know I'm blessed, I
Mhm.
feel blessed, but at the same time, there's like something off with my energy. And I think it's a possible coincidence that today we're talking about love languages, talking
Mhm.
about things that can recharge you and get you back, get your frequencies back high. So 5 languages by
Gary Chapman.
Gary Chapman, right? Goes through 5 different things. Number one is acts of service, and we're gonna go into details about all of these. But the 5 love languages are acts of service, quality time, physical touch. Oh, and bites apparently. No, no, physical touch, gifts, and words of affirmation.
Mhm.
Okay, these are the 5. Now, before we go into and explain what each of these 5 are, Queen, why do you think like just knowing your love diet, knowing your love language is important? Period. Whether you're single, you're married, all that stuff.
I think it's important because in whatever type of relationship, again, this could be like this is important for I think just for you to know for like your family members, right? I think for
Mhm.
anybody close to you, you want to know how they perceive love and how they want to be loved. And the reason why that's important is because if you think about the whole phrase like intent versus impact, like we've
Mm,
all heard that in some way, shape, or form, but you can be intending to show love in a certain way as much as you want, right? You could be doing this is something I do every single day. This is some way I show love to this person, my partner, my mom, my friend, my whoever, my child. But if they're not perceiving it that way,
yeah.
then you're putting in a lot of energy towards something that you'll never really reach your goal, right? So I think it's important to know what your the other person's love language is so that you can make sure that your intentions are also received and the impact is what you want. Um so for example, if I just really loved giving gifts. I love making gifts. That's my giving language, right? That's how I express love to other people. If your love language is not also not gifts, right? Then it may be cool,
Yes,
but
yes.
you'll probably start collecting a little box full of gifts from
Hmm.
Sinclair because it's the thought that counts, but you're not really feeling that. And you're eventually going to get to the point where it's like, dang, I just really want her to give me a compliment. Why? That's all I want, right? For
Yeah.
someone who like is their words of affirmation is their love language. So long story short, you just want to make sure that you're on the same page and that what the love you're trying to give is actually received by the other person.
Beautiful. And it's also good, flip side of that, to know what's the love language that you want to accept from other people as well.
Right.
Right. So whether you're out there and you're dating, or you're in your beautiful, amazing marriage or relationship, to be able to say, hey queen, this is what I need, or hey king, this is what I need in order to feel loved. And they have those directions. So I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like communication is something that is so powerful in a relationship.
Mhm.
And me knowing, like, once I knew that your love language was words of affirmation, it's like, oh, bet. I
Right.
could give you that all day, queen. Beautiful,
Yes, you can.
gorgeous, chefalific.
Mm.
Chefalific.
Chef,
Chef.
cheferific.
What was the word?
You said
Cheferific?
cheferific before.
Cheferific. There you go.
Yeah.
You got it. Gotta get the words right now. But I feel like once I was able to know that information, you communicate that to me, I can execute, right?
Right.
But Unfortunately, we don't always have the intention or the time as a married couple, relationships, as friends to sit and be like, "This is my love language. This is what I need from you, and this is what I think you need from me, vice versa."
Yeah.
Right? So, let's get into these definitions or examples of these.
Mhm.
Number one, acts of service. I think this was my number one love language, but 2 years in a row. Right, we've taken this 2, 3 years.
I don't know if it was years in a row, but we've taken it twice.
Taking it twice.
Yeah.
Both times, acts of service has been number one. The number two shifts a little bit. But acts of service is just I appreciate when people do stuff for me,
Mhm.
right? Especially if it's something that I'm responsible for doing. Like I'm supposed to take out the trash, I'm supposed to clean the dishes, I'm supposed to cook or whatever it is. If someone does that for me, I'm just like, oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Bless your heart.
Like, there's been long nights where I'm up here working, you're downstairs cooking. You're like, Devon, dinner's ready. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, dang. When I come downstairs, I know there's a pile of dishes that I need to clean. Oh my goodness, it's about to be a long night. But then I go down there and the dishes are clean. I'm just like, oh, thank you. Thank you so much. But yeah, acts of service is a love language that I definitely appreciate, identify with. It's also a love language that I think I give to
Mhm.
people. Right. Like if you need something done, you need me to show up somewhere, you need me to do something for you, boom, I'm there, acts of service. I got you. Cause that's how I like to accept love. That's also how I like to give out love to friends, family members, and the queen. Right.
Well, this is probably a common one for like people who are busy and just like to keep doing a lot of things. And
Yeah.
typically we all have that person, that friend, that husband, that whoever, who's just always busy, always doing something. I feel like there's probably a correlation between those personality types and
Mhm.
love language, because yeah, he's always doing something. So I feel like if I can take something off that I now understand, right, if I can take something off of his plate, if I can check one of the to-do list thing, one of his to-do list action items, then that frees up his time to do other things or to spend with me or do whatever he wants to do. So I think, yeah, again, like you mentioned before, once you know, then it's like, "Oh, okay, I now know something else about you that I can use that. Like that's something easy to adopt, right away,
Yeah.
that I can now use moving forward to make sure that we're on the same page."
Yes, ma'am. If acts of service is one of your number ones, if you're listening to it and you're like, yep, that's me. I'm a busy person. I like when people do stuff for me. Go ahead and put, if you're watching on YouTube, acts of service in the comments and put an example of what an act of service will look like for you. If you're listening, you're one of our audio listeners, do not comment. Please continue to drive. Thank you. Queen, next one. Quality time. Can you please explain, break down what quality time means and if it's important to you?
Yes, quality time is important to me. I, this was my number two one of the times that we took this. Um, but quality time is just it's time spent together. The quality added on is like that can, vary for whatever that person needs or feels, but that quality is like that for me, like that one-on-one time, it's intentional time.
Mm,
I think it's the intention behind this is time we have set aside to be together. Rather than like, oh, well, we just went grocery shopping. You was with me, like
hey, listen, those grocery stores, those trips can be quality. I'm just
Devon has a
saying.
thing of, did you know? One of Devon's turn-ons is being a grocery store.
Every
I don't
time.
know what it is about them aisles, but no, yeah, quality time, it's the intention put behind it. So not just we happen to be together all the time, but we have set aside date night, right? Fridays are date night. We have set aside time to be with each other in each other's company. Doesn't really matter what we're doing, but we're going to do it together.
Mhm.
uh, I think that is a huge um, part of our relationship, because yes, we do spend a lot of time together, but we do spend a lot of time together working. We do
Mhm.
spend a lot of time together podcasting. Like personally, I wouldn't consider this quality time. You
No,
might,
and
but
there's not quality time.
no, no.
We're getting to know each other
We
a
are
little
getting
bit.
to know each other. But this would not suffice quality time for I.
Noted.
Uh-huh. Mhm. But watching a movie yesterday, we spent a lot of quality time together.
Yes, we did.
We were lazy. We just sat around eating pancakes, drinking mimosas, watching Avengers and Marvel Universe, getting sucked into that universe.
Indeed.
And that was wonderful. That is how we decided to choose, to spend the day. That was planned.
Mhm.
And that felt great. So yes, especially again with people, if you live very busy lives, you got kids that got to go to dance and baseball, and like schedules can fill up very quickly. So it is very important to set aside time, quality time to be with each other. That can mean a lot. And again, for it being a love language, the fact that you have just set aside time to be with that other person, that is the act of love,
Mm.
the intention to be with me and the act of being with me rather than doing everything else that is probably, on your to-do list that you could be doing. You're prioritizing me right now. So that's the act of love and what makes me feel loved.
Agreed. So to all my fellow workaholics out there,
Hmm.
right? My visionaries, my dreamers, my 9 to 9 people. Quality time. This is especially important. If you know that your loved one's love language is quality time, you need to set it aside,
Hmm.
right? I was watching. It was a documentary this morning. It was on just like
You
the.
watched a documentary this morning?
I did watch a documentary this morning when I was sitting there working out and I was watching the thing on my phone.
Oh, gotcha.
And you were trying to talk to me, and I wasn't hearing you or listening to you. I was watching that documentary. It's good stuff.
Not giving me quality time. I
Yeah,
remember.
because I gave it to you Saturday.
You remember?
Yeah, you remember the other day we were watching Avengers. Remember pancakes? Quality.
Pancakes, mimosas.
Mm, ding. But it's important to understand if they like quality time, how can you carve out some time to make sure you're doing that stuff? Because Queen does a great job of doing acts of service. So it doesn't, it's like unfair and unbalanced if she's doing all this acts of service stuff in order to maybe get some more quality time. But and then I just fill that up with,
Mhm,
okay, you did that for me. Cool. So now I can do this work and I can do this work. That's, in my opinion, unbalanced and unfair. Right. So if she's sacrificing doing those acts of service, then it's on me or it's on you to make sure that you give them that quality time or whatever other love language that's important to them.
mhm,
Right.
mhm.
You good on quality time?
Sí.
Okay, up next. Love your Spanish, queen.
Gracias.
Of course. Up next is physical touch. And this can be a range of physical touches, right? So this can be a nice sensual rub. This can be a head rub, a back rub. This can be all of the grown man gifts and grown women gifts. This can be holding hands in public, hugging in public, all of that stuff. Oh, look at it. Look. But that is all physical touch. And I believe for me, physical touch was, I think, tied for number one the first time we did it. I think the second time it was number two, if I'm remembering correctly. Can
And it's, I think, always been at the bottom of the list for me.
you say that louder?
I said I think it's always been at the bottom of the list for me, or second to bottom.
Hmm. This is true. And Queen, anything to add on the physical touch?
um, I mean the comfortability of the physical touch is a tricky one
Hmm.
because I feel like it is more applicable to your closer relationships than it is like a coworker at work, right? You got to be careful with this one.
Hmm.
To where this one is like more applicable, like I said, to like a family member, a loved one. It can be a friend, but just make sure that I feel like you've agreed on the type of physical touch that is appreciated and not. Um, yeah, so just that it needs to be perceived as love and not as something else.
Hmm.
So just be clear on like these are the types of physical touches that feel good, right? And then ma- the whole intent versus impact again comes back to mind when I think about physical touch. Is just make sure that yeah, you're whatever you're gonna do is appreciated by the other person.
Yeah.
So this could be like Grandy and her hugs, right? She
Hmm. Love them
loves a
hugs.
good hug, especially from Devon. So I think that right, keeping that in mind, that's her love language. She loves to get a good hug in every now and then. To whereas for someone else, they may not be a hugger, right?
Mm.
They may not, they're kind of like, physical space, I'm good, my
Sophia.
bubble. Right, exactly. And just understand that great, me showing love to Sophia is gonna look a lot different than Grandy.
Mhm.
So yeah, just something to keep in mind that there's additional conversation need to be had with this one. Don't
Right.
just assume that just touching them in any type of way is going to be seen as love. Like talk about that. Make sure that
Agreed.
whatever you're doing is perceived.
Agreed.
the
And
way you
to
want it to.
in addition to that point, we're a family friendly podcast. We're not gonna go into the very specifics of it, but I think you can take that same mindset even for your intimate relationships,
Mhm.
right? You can assume one level of physical touch is something that somebody wants or is welcome, but
Yep.
until you have that open conversation of these are the ways that I would appreciate it,
Right.
you don't know. So you have to have those open,
Communicative.
communicative.
Sure.
Y'all know I make up words all the time on here, but you need to make sure you communicate those things, those barriers. What are the good things that they like, and what are the maybe not so good things. But again, family friendly podcast. We're not gonna go into the details on that,
Yeah,
but have a conversation.
you get it. Thank you for tuning in to the True Health Forever podcast. We hope you learned something valuable that you can take and implement into your life. Now, we've all heard that sharing is caring, and this podcast is no exception. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend, a family member, a coworker, a stranger walking down the street, anybody who you think can level up from this message. As always, we appreciate your support, and we'll talk to you next week. Be well.